We're ready to go? Hi, everyone, and welcome to what I think, at least for me, has, I guess, with every event you do this size, there will be hiccups, there will be issues. I think this panel was definitely one of them. But thankfully, I have my amazing co-panelist here. Thank you for that. But just to give you a short background, we were supposed to have a live Q&A with Bryan Johnson. His plan changed, we had to cancel. So I had the pleasure of doing an interview with Bryan last week. Amazing, very, very interesting. We will dive into that. Another interesting part was that interview, that recording crashed. So you're like, of all the things you can put on top of unfortunate situations, I think that happened with this talk. But together with his team, we did manage to do some recordings of some of the questions that I asked him. And we will dive into to some of these topics, because what I've learned, interestingly enough, I thought I was having a talk about longevity and supplements and extreme treatments. But I learned that Bryan comes from a very philosophical, really a much more high-level perspective on where we as a human race are going, what is super intelligence going to do, how is it impacting our health, our lifespan. So we will dive into some of these topics. But before we start, I think I will let you present yourself. But I'm very happy, and I think we have a very good foundation for some good discussions between the four of us. But Natalie, will you maybe start?
Yes, sure, I'd love to. Hi, everyone. Thank you guys for this amazing health summit. I'm also learning a lot here, and curiosity, I think, is a really big medicine in longevity. I have a show, Elevate Life. I host doctors and experts on longevity and biohacking. My profile on Instagram is Island Natalie. I was born in the Seychelles Islands, and I was in luxury travel. My journey started 15 years ago, so I became a longevity expert, trying to help clients improve and optimize their health, learning by testing, what type of testing, deep dive diagnostics, but body, mind, and soul, because we're also spiritually of the mind connected to our body. Molecules of emotion, voices in our head. Your body, when your mind is talking, your body's listening. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you. So my name is Martin Kremer, and well, in my day job, I'm the CEO and one of the co-founders of a company called BioWatch. We have a booth back here under the brand of 3H. So it's going to be all about longevity that we'll talk about here today. I guess the background on me is in my spare time, the little I have, is working with Tine on creating this event here. And a bit of background on that is I founded the Danish biohacking community about 10 years ago, which is a thriving online community for health nuts like myself. And along that way, in this global scene of biohacking, I bumped into Sim here, who you'll meet in a second. You already saw him earlier, some of you potentially. But yeah, so I'm just a real health geek, and my day job with 3H is really helping people understand what can they do to extend health span. We don't talk so much about longevity, we talk about preventing things. We'll get into that. So.
Yeah, I'm Siim Lund. I'm from Estonia, and I've written like 9 books right now about different health topics, and I've got a degree in anthropology. This is like that got me interested in like science, but yeah, I was most interested in longevity, as I shared in my speech, because of, you know, my grandfather died pretty early, so I didn't want to kind of follow a similar trend. And yeah, now I've been doing content creation as well online for I think 8 years on the different platforms, and yeah, that's what I'm mostly interested in, like myself, longevity side.
Thank you guys for being here. And I'm curious if we are continuing jinxing, or if we are ready to play a little snippet from the interview with Bryan. And I look at our but this is not it. It's the wrong presentation. Oh. Okay, I think while we
get the video up.
While we get the video up, I feel like this gets better and better. Maybe because I think as to fly into what Bryan is sharing in the video clip we're going to see about his vision with his Don't Die project. I don't know how many of you guys know Bryan Johnson and know of his Blueprint and Don't Die projects. But I would like to ask you first maybe to share your perspective on longevity. I mean, and I think from a more philosophical, why are we as human beings, why is this interesting? Yes, we don't want to die, but maybe put a few more words into how you perceive this desire to live longer, live forever.
Well, I guess it's one of the oldest questions humans have been asking since we developed consciousness of what is death and how do you avoid it. That's why a lot of different religions have also developed to kind of find answer to these questions of death and life. So I think it's just part of being human to answer this question of what is death, and the goal of like trying to live longer or trying to figure out death or overcome it. I guess it mostly comes down to just some evolutionary drives. Like no one really wants to die, and most people would like to stay healthy for longer. And the question is how do you actually do it, and what's the like other implications of that, like ethical implications and economical implications.
But I think there's also a paradox that we know so much about health today, and still we choose to live not from optimizing our health span or lifespan. Most of us are doing the opposite, or our society is creating a reality where it becomes really hard to take good care of your health and to really create a foundation for a long, healthy life.
I think we're at a big time where the paradigm is shifting. I think these longevity summits people are here who are coming, taking the time on their Sunday to invest in their health, learning. Knowledge is key. And I agree with what you were saying. Like, I lost my father in May, and I just thought he was invincible. My journey started when I thought I was invincible and got really sick at the age of 30. And so I started learning, and I didn't trust my doctor, and my doctor made a mistake. And that was when I started taking it into my own hands, which is why my keynote is be the CEO of your life, invest in your health. We need to change our mindset. We're at a big time when you have that opportunity, and knowledge is power. Knowledge is, like it says right here, age is a number, it's a choice. You guys do have a choice here to change your life and get involved. You spend money and time where focus goes, energy flows. You're investing in that vacation, that great night out, that whatever, love. I love seeing this, is a medicine too, and there's spirituality, there's energy, and understanding all this stuff. I think it's just a beautiful time where we are able to shift, and a lot of us are partaking in this, and hopefully, that's where we're going with that vision. Bryan is, I think, very meticulous, robotic. I've met him, he's a friend, and I love what he's doing. He's pushing the envelope. Social media is getting out there. You guys are getting a whole new view on what can be that we never thought before could be. And we are evolving, and we're also exposed to way more toxins than our parents or grandparents were. We're aware of what the word trauma means. We've all had some experience with nature, so we're aware that there is something else out there beyond us, and understanding grief and true love and how you can alchemize that into a positive just by the power of thought.
I think we managed now. when I went on this call with Bryan, I honestly thought that when I would ask him what is the philosophy behind Don't Die, it would be all about a more narcissistic approach to like, how can I just, defy aging and become the best and youngest version of myself. And I think it was interesting and positive to see that there was much more thought to it than that. And I think if you've just seen a few of his YouTube videos, it seems extreme, and I think many people actually forget to dive that step deeper and actually understand what he's doing. And he's doing something that is very, very important, and he's putting it out there, and he spends not only his money, but he also uses his body as an example of that, where we actually are today, what is possible. But I think the first thing I will share with you is just a few of his words on what the philosophy behind Don't Die is. And now the question is...
They're in a coffee break.
If I dare to press...
Just press something.
Okay.
No.
Oh, it's running from...
If you lived in the year 1870 and the future could whisper into your ear, it might say something like this. There are these things called germs. They're microscopic objects. The eyes can't see them, and they cause infection and can lead to death. Now, if you're like most people in the 1870s, you're not going to believe that craziness. You're telling me that things beyond the resolution of my eyes are the cause of disease, infection, and potentially death. That is how the future always works. It presents ideas that we find to be bizarre and unintelligible. That's been the case throughout history. Is the Earth the center of the universe, or does the Earth orbit around the sun? So if we imagine the 25th century whispering into our ears, what might they say? And when they say it, how might we control our knee-jerk reactions so that we don't reject it at a hand? What I think the 25th century might say is that for the first time in human history, death may no longer be inevitable. Now, that does not mean immortality. It means that we have a horizon of extending our health spans and lifespans to degrees that are previously unimaginable to us. In this moment, we know that things are changing very fast. Technology is progressing at speeds that makes it hard for our minds to comprehend. We don't want to miss out in not knowing the big thing that's happening in this moment. That's what Don't Die is. It's an observation that the singular insight that will dominate our time and place as the future looks back at us. They will say, that is the moment when humans acquired the technological ability to dramatically extend their lifespans. So Don't Die is really about the most basic things in life, and it's also the most expansive philosophical contemplations we can have as intelligent beings. Don't Die calls attention to the embedding in our society that we have built a society around die. Think of it. Fast food, algorithms that make us do bad stuff. We are surrounded by things that accelerate aging and increase the probability of death. And then we justify these things as living our best life. And when someone like myself defies those norms, I get heaped upon with hate. If death has always been inevitable, we build our existence around justifying our behaviors around that inevitability. If death is no longer inevitable, you are invited to reconstruct your entire reality. And this is why I don't call it live long or live well or some other positive statement that a lot of people encourage me to say, because if you say those positive things, literally everybody is going to say, yep, I'm doing it, no matter what their circumstances in life. If you say don't die, it forces the person to reconcile with everything they understand in existence. So if you want to die, you need to justify why die is a virtue for you and for everyone else. Say you don't want to die, you need to confront that death has always been inevitable. How are we possibly going to overcome this unimaginable challenge?
So...
Quite a mouthful.
Yes, and an interesting perspective. Like, when you ask Bryan, his perception is that today, and as he said, if we were tuning 50 years ahead and looking back at this time we are in right now as human beings, we have super intelligence, our algorithms, AI know so much about taking care of our health, much more than we, in his opinion, as human being does. So we can actually, we have the power, we have the means, we have the knowledge, we have the data to actually significantly expand our, not just lifespan, but also really our health span. But what is the cost of that? And I think this is where he really triggers a lot of people, because I think for many, and this was also the talk I had, even my own immediate reaction is like, but if I have to go to bed every night, not 5 days a week, but every single night at 8 o'clock, if I never eat after midday, if I cannot have a, I cannot have a boyfriend because it disturbs my sleep and it, whatever. I think for many people it seems completely outrageous and the opposite of a great life. His contemplation is that he has never been happier. And that we as human beings need to reprogram ourselves. But I think I'm very curious to hear your take on, like, maybe we have the insights for this long, healthy life, but what are the costs? What are the pitfalls, if any?
Let me have a go at that, because I think what definitely dawned on me when I saw this the first time, I'll be the first to say I've not been a real fan of Bryan, because I think there's a lot of, like, it's not so Nordic in the sense of one person standing in front, right? We're a little bit more socialistic in nature. And I think that when you listen to what he's saying, he's actually thinking about the big systemic change that needs to happen in the food industry, in the pharma industry, like Dr. Asim talked about yesterday, right? It's like we need to do those things in order for us to really move the needle for humanity. I think that's quite, getting to what you're asking. He's definitely fueled by an inner fire, like the rest of us. He's seen the problem in the system, and this is his way of trying to put a stake in the ground and say, we need to change the paradigm, and then we can all extend lives. And it's going to take a long time. It's going to take a lot of money and a lot of focus and a lot of politicians. But I think he's onto something. It's creating a movement.
He definitely is.
I agree. Creating a movement. He's pushing the needle. I don't agree with everything. I think he's a little controversial, but I do think that he's making us aware that, hey, this is possible. It's real. I'm doing it. Like I said, I think he's a little robotic. I think there's balance that is the key. I'm from the Seychelles Islands. My grandmother was 93 years old. You can also, she had her 2 cognacs every night. Like, she'd always have her little cognac. She had sugar in her coffee. So sugar is okay. It's about the balance. Granted, we have more toxins. We have more stress. We're always on our phones. We're dealing with that emotional stress differently. So regulating the emotions, I think that, I wish he would promote more that spiritual side. And you've had some great speakers here on that subject. And I think balance is key, but it is possible. But you guys invest in your health, do a couple of tests. He's done a lot of crazy tests. I've done a lot of crazy tests, but there are some basics like understanding your methylation, your genetics, your toxins, telling your doctor, because they're all old-fashioned traditional doctors, telling them, hey, do my Helicobacter pylori test. Do more than just mercury or heavy metals. You've got to be, the CEO and take over to make sure.
You're assuming the doctor knows what that is.
Yeah.
That could be an issue.
Yeah.
Sim.
Yeah, I can share maybe like how to manage your expectations with what Bryan is talking about. So he has, I guess 2 components to this. There's the don't die, don't eat the fast food, and don't be sedentary, those kind of things, like the simple things. And then there's also the 25th century idea that in the next few, decades and 100 years, people are going to be able to choose whether or not they want to die or not. And this moves more into the realm of this I guess, transhumanism and the idea of the singularity, as well as the longevity escape velocity, which describes that with every passing year, your life expectancy will increase more. So like 1 year goes by, but your life expectancy increases 2 years because of the advancements in medical technologies and science, which means effectively you'll be able to be immortal because, you know, every year that you age, you reverse your age by 2 years and you maintained it. Now the problem with this is that it's very theoretical. Like a lot of these futurists like Ray Kurzweil and Aubrey de Grey, etc., they're always, I mean, Aubrey de Grey introduced the concept in early 2000s, like 20 years ago, and we've made like zero progress almost. So it's like, it's a very theoretical concept, and like right now I would say that it's not going to happen in our lifetime. At least what I think, you know, personally, because you know, we would actually we would have to have a few like ideas already, but we, you know, currently don't have that good understanding of the biology of aging, at least like 100% accurate over. We understand, obviously, yeah, don't smoke, don't be obese, avoid, try to minimize the risk of heart disease and diabetes, etc. Like, yeah, but those things aren't going to make you live to 200 years. They're going to maybe make you live 80, 90, 100, and that's what the trajectory of life expectancy is going to be for the next century. That the average life expectancy in the world will be something like 80 or 90, especially in like South Korea, where it's going to be something like 95, etc. But, you know, taking supplements, exercising, it's not going to make you immortal. It's going to, yeah, maybe reduce the risk of these chronic diseases and add healthy years to your life, so you're more vibrant, and you might extend your lifespan by a few years by doing that as well. So Don't Die is mostly about staying alive, like what Bryan is doing for himself. He's trying to stay alive until the longevity escape velocity happens. Now, a lot of people say it's going to happen in 2030. Aubrey de Grey, I think he says it's going to happen 2045. And, you know, depends who you ask. Ray Kurzweil says, yeah, 2030, so in 6 years, which, you know, I don't think so.
Unlikely.
So, you know, yeah, like it's trying to stay alive for as long as possible, so that maybe then you'll reach the benefits of these future advancements in medical technologies. But the supplements and the exercise aren't that. They're health span focused things. Yeah. So we need to focus on a lot of other things than supplements and exercise. We need to focus on genetic engineering, some pharmaceuticals, some other compounds, rejuvenation technologies. You know, even stem cells is not it. Stem cells aren't going to make you live, you know, decades longer. So we don't even know what is the actual key to extending lifespan, and we haven't done that much in humans either, like, or the animal species. Like the longest life extension ever done was done in mice, and that was 40 years ago already, with a 60% calorie restriction, and they extended lifespan by 65% in the mice. So even over the last 40 years, there hasn't been any breakthroughs in this radical life extension, even in animal models, not to mention the humans. So it's, I just want to let people be more realistic with it. Like, yes, it's very good to, you know, try to take care of your health and exercise regularly and take a few supplements and etc. But
don't get your hopes up.
Yeah. Like,
I need to jump in there too.
But I think, and it's a very valid point, and it's also, as you say, he's kind of, there's two tracks in what he does. But to bring, because yes, who knows? And I think those of you who heard Niklas just before, he also speaks into the, I mean, we don't know yet. Lifespan is still small numbers we can extend, but the health span part, I still think is so vital, because if again you look into numbers and how many years many of us per definition will spend with chronic diseases, it's a lot of years of our life if we don't take care of this. And I think I just want to play one snippet more. If you can start the video again, where, as it says here, you know, like, why is it then that we as human beings...
Practically speaking, we can say smoking 2 cigarettes shortens your life by 30 minutes. So we can assign cigarettes a die score. Let's apply that same principle to something else. Let's take a look at a typical American school lunch. A piece of pizza, some chocolate milk, and some canned vegetables. What would we assign for a dye score? Should we say just 7 minutes for sake of contemplation? So we're feeding our kids dye. And the reason why this example is useful because when adults speak to themselves about these ideas of dye, adults have a infinitely long list of reasons why they should justify their vices. It's like, I want to live well, not long. YOLO, live fast, die young. Death is a positive thing. But when you frame it as us feeding dye to kids, it shows how pernicious this thing is.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I mean, I grew up in America as well. I'm European. I'm Seychelles, and I agree what's going on and how they're feeding the kids is horrible. The vaccine has been just a horrible abuse to humanity, and I think that big corporations are trying to make us sick because obviously the more pills and more medicine we need, it's a big money-making business. I do think, however, there's an opportunity that, I've met people and through breath work, through simple things, healing autoimmune disease. If you're able to go and do a microbiome gut test, if you were vaccinated, your bifidobacteria is off. If your microbiome gut bacteria is on, your immune system's on. Inflammaging, that's why they say inflammation is what causes aging. There were some great, maybe it was even your presentation about the people who aged well, or Nordic Labs. Chris, why are those people in certain countries, why are they aging well and without chronic illness or chronic disease? So there's a lot that we can do, and also in stem cells, I've met people who have healed from ADHD. I've met people who did fecal transplant and healed Crohn's disease. I've met, I know of some celebrities in Hollywood who are like 95 to 100 years old, and I know they've done 2 to 3 rounds of stem cells because my ex-boyfriend treated them. I'm not allowed to say who. So there's like CRISPR technology. There's a lot of different things that are, we're children learning to walk in this space, and it's exciting because there's so much that we can learn, and now we just need to bridge this gap of the information between the classic doctors and our new world of becoming an expert or learning all these things. And when we're bridging the gap, there are these opportunities, and we do need to think and be more mindful with how we raise our kids and feed them.
Definitely agree with that. I mean, it's interesting. Again, I'm just going to take it on his perspective because I think you were all saying some really great things here. Appointing systems to little things in life, I think generally is almost like a biohacker's manual, right? It's like quantifying things, and that's actually what I believe he's trying to do there. And we got to start somewhere with figuring out how do we educate earlier on the fact that we know we're harming people, because he's absolutely right in the fact that, and this is a gross example from the US, and it's a little bit better here in the Nordics, I will say.
Yeah.
And I know that there's a lot of things going on to fix those things, but again, I'm skeptical about what are we all going to do in our lifetime, right? I mean, apart from starting to fixing the system, because you're quite right, Sim, I don't believe either that we are actually going to move the needle that much. Maybe you'll have 10 more healthy years if you're doing really good, right?
But I think, and I also asked this to Bryan, like, how far does he believe we can go right now? And if you will just play the next clip.
Three years ago, I posed the question, what is our proximity to being able to slow down and even neutralize the aging process? 3 years in, we now have the answer. It's pretty compelling. And the way I did that, I measured every organ of my body, getting a biological age of each organ, and then we used the best science to try to slow down my speed of aging and reverse that aging damage.
I think I cut it a bit short because I also know we have to be mindful of time, but I think interestingly enough, I think he's now at 0.64 in his aging process, so pace of aging. So he, if you ate with a normal rate, it would be 1. If you ate fast, it would be over 1. If your pace of aging is good, it will be under 1. So 0.64 is great. But what I do also find very interesting, I think mine last I tested was 0.74 with your test, Martin. and yours are lower. And I don't know the two of you, but I'm sure you know your pace of aging as well. So I think it's interesting to ask, like, he's doing a lot of extremes, but what is it that really makes that significant change?
Love to hear your take on that one.
Yeah.
I think first of all, we would need to know if the test or the pace of aging is valid.
Definitely, that's a good discussion.
But it's like right now, I don't think it's a very good test because first of all, there's not a lot of data. There's only like a handful of studies on the test, particular speed of aging test. And second of all, there's been a lot of findings that it fluctuates during the day, and it also fluctuates based on if you're sick or not. So you can, your speed of aging and your biological age could be, 10 years or not 10. Like it could be very different from the morning, from the evening, as well as traveling between time zones, or if you just got some sickness or etc. So it's very hard to, I wouldn't like put a lot of emphasis on the tests and about the speed of aging and the biological age test, because all of the tests look at different patterns of methylation. They have different calculations for it. So every company has their own test, but they all tell the different thing, and they look at all the different things as well. So there's no gold standard. Right. Okay, this is the best test. So no one knows what the best test is, and they all look at it very differently. And you can change it. Okay, I'm going to get hammered. I'm going to get drunk or something, and then you measure it again, and your biological age goes up. So is it actually true or not? So it's interesting, and it's like a fun game to do, but it's not the actual. Like you could have a very good speed of aging test, but still have heart disease or something.
Yeah, I would agree. I'd like to add, we do a lot of that kind of testing with our clients, and for the exact reason you mentioned there, that's a biological age test, an epigenetics test, just one data point. You need to understand the DNA of the person. You need to understand their pheno-age. You need to understand their VO2 max and their grip strength, and all of those points you need to triangulate to really have a more complete picture of what can you do to help this individual live a healthier life for longer, right?
Yeah.
Because I agree with you, there's a lot of rave around these tests, and obviously having an interest in saying this, it wakes people up. It really does.
Yeah.
The fact that even some people might compete with their numbers and all of that, but at the end of the day, this is getting into a little bit of what we talked about last night, we have all these tests in the world, and there's always going to be a new test, and we'll go chase them, we'll go understand if they're better than the other, but at the end of the day, people move people, right? And that's what I think Bryan is also onto with his movement. It's, you need to create advocates and movements, because tests alone are not going to solve this problem.
Yeah. I haven't done that specific test. I've done 3 different biological age tests. They're all different. So I haven't done this one because I'm like, I love testing, and I love all these new things. I've tested my telomeres, how much oxygen is in my mitochondria, and oxygen's a real important one, you guys. And so, I take it with a grain of salt, but I think it's also great to be proactive. I do think there are the basics, like you said, genetics, methylation, toxins, and I think, but he's moving the needle, and I like that he's giving it a score, but in the, what you say, your brain doesn't know the difference, so don't die. My brain's hearing die.
Me too.
So technically, that is actually a marketing flaw, and it's maybe not sending the right message. So I would have probably not done that, but I do agree with the general goal of what he's trying to do to wake us up.
Yeah, like the message, don't die. Okay, you need to figure out what are the things that kill most people, and the top causes of death are, heart disease, Alzheimer's, cancer, diabetes, kidney disease, etc. So you need to reverse engineer from there. Okay, to not die, always put a seatbelt on. That's step 1. Or don't do parachute jumping or something like that. Those are the first things. Don't drive a motorcycle. Yeah. Those are the first things, and then don't get heart disease, don't get diabetes, don't get Alzheimer's. And there are more clinically relevant biomarkers for these chronic diseases, like ApoB and inflammation and diabetes, blood sugar, etc. Focusing on those is much more practical, but most people are more interested in, okay, what's my biological age than my cholesterol, and they're more worried, and they wake up more if they see their biological age is worse than, okay, my cholesterol is high. They don't care about the cholesterol that much. It's
Right.
But I do agree with the food thing. Like, I haven't drank a Coca-Cola, I think, in 18 years. You know, I maybe once a year. I don't go to McDonald's since 18 years. I mean, there are some basics that you can follow. Certain chips, you know, seed oils. I like avoid French fries now. Every blue moon, I might like. That's where we need to count the scores that I think he's talking about. What are these points that accumulate and compound over time to detract from aging well and optimizing our health so that we don't end up in a hospital with cancer, you know?
Yeah, and I think in the end, it's all about the negative long-term chronic stress factors you put towards your body, whether it's mental stress, physical stress, emotional stress, stress from the food and the toxins that we all are exposed to, and no matter how much we try to eat organically or farm our own groceries, in the end, what is the nutrients in the earth that those groceries are farmed from? What's in our water? And I mean, we live in times where, unfortunately, there are so many toxins and pesticides and elements in basically all the touch points we have as human beings. So it requires more effort to even just stay ahead of that game. So I think he's definitely, as you also said, he's pushing the needle. He's extreme in many ways, but I think when you dive a little bit deeper, there is a profound wish to make a change and to get people to wake up and understand that we are in a time right now where all of us has to take an active, we have to ask ourselves the question, what will I do? Will I take responsibility? Will I be part of not accepting this as the norm? And I think that is probably what he's really. Then you can frame it in different ways, and then you can emphasize different parts of it. But we are at a time where something needs to change. Also, in my opinion. But a last key takeaway from you guys before we have to finish off. Oof.
I think, every one of us does have a biological age. We don't know how to measure it. Like, we don't have a good test to measure it, actually. But every one of us, ages in a different speed because of genetics and environment and our daily lifestyle habits. So there's, all the small things that build up. So you might be sleeping 5 hours instead of 8. So that's going to accelerate your aging. You might be sedentary and not moving enough instead of, being regularly active. That accelerates your aging. You might be exposed to a lot of air pollution compared to living on a countryside or something. That accelerates your aging. So there's all these different factors that affect our biological aging. And we need to, try to tick the box in as many of these areas, at least in a decent manner. So you don't need to be super meticulous with your diet. You don't need to have a meal plan or anything like that. But, you need to eat like a decent diet 80% of the time. Eat whole foods mostly. And that's pretty as close as you can get with the research current as well. There's no perfect longevity diet. There's only eat 80% whole foods and don't try to don't become overweight and obese.
Totally agree. I guess I'll add to that. Again, the need to, from our experience, we're working with a lot of clients, it's sometimes just as simple as denormalizing things, because people normalize a suboptimal state of health. And just by understanding that, you can move the needle on a lot of these tests as well. And a lot of people underestimate significantly the importance of what Sim just said, like what we call the basics.
Yeah.
Right? And again, I definitely think that we're all different human beings, and some in this room may go totally, we don't need all these tests for all of this because we just need to do it. And all I can say is I've had a number of folks in front of me having said that for a long time, and then at a very late age, when things start to go wrong, when things they thought were normal started to ache a little bit more, or the tummy is a little bit bad over a long period of time, that starts to accelerate. So the compound effect of not doing what Sim just said stacks up. And then I think, and that's going back to Bryan Johnson here, starting very early on to assign some points to what's not optimal versus just continuing through this norm, which we all know won't lead to anything good. I
agree with everything. I would add to that balance is key. So, you can have a little bit of red wine, like Dan Buettner says. In blue zones, it's okay. A little bit of cognac, which my grandmother did. But check your toxins. Make sure you go to your doctor and you get on him and you say, go do this, that. You really need to know what's going on in your little fish soup. So you're like that fish in the pond and you're breathing that in. Your mitochondria is breathing that in every day. And molecules of emotion. Every thought that you have creates proteins, hormones, cortisol. So that'll also affect you. And your thoughts can make you sick, but they can also heal you.
So true.
Thank you so much. It was
Thank
a pleasure.
you.
Thank you for the patience with our many technical hiccups.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.